All right, let's talk about how one simple idea from a 14th century friar did way more than just trim a few unnecessary arguments. It literally sliced an entire worldview in two, creating this massive gap between the medieval mind and the modern one. This is a wild story. Let's get into it.
And that really is the big question here, isn't it? Because we're not talking about a new invention or a political revolution. We're talking about William of Ockham proposing a change to how we understand reality itself. And believe me, the aftershocks from that idea, we're still feeling them today.
So to really get what Ockham was up to, you have to understand the huge philosophical battle he was wading into. For centuries, the smartest people around were arguing about something called universals. You know, big concepts like humanity or beauty or justice. The question was, are these things real? And if they are, where exactly are they?
Okay, check this out, because this chart lays out the whole battlefield. The mainstream view, the realists, they said yes to pretty much everything. They believed God had this perfect blueprint for humanity in his mind. They believed a real shared essence of humanity actually exists inside all of us. And they thought we could form a perfect abstract concept of it in our own minds. Then Ockham comes along, looks at all this, and just goes, no, no. And, well, kind of no. He says God doesn't think in blueprints, he thinks about every single individual thing. He says there's no magical essence floating around, there's just you and me and that guy over there. And in our minds, this is the kicker. He says we don't have a pure concept of humanity, we just have a word, a term, that we use to group all those individuals together. And this idea got its own name, terminism. It's basically the idea that a word like beauty isn't some high-minded concept we grasp. Nope. It's just a label. It's a convenient tag we slap on a whole bunch of different individual things, like a specific painting or a particular person or one amazing sunset. The word can be used universally, but it only ever points to specific individual things.
So, this is it. This is the absolute core of his whole philosophy, the one thing you have to remember. For Ockham, the only things that are truly fundamentally real are individuals. Particular things. Not categories, not grand ideas, not blueprints, just this chair, that person, this very moment. It sounds so simple, right? But that one little change, it was about to bring the whole house down.
And the first biggest domino to fall was our entire understanding of God. I mean, think about it. If there are no universal blueprints for God to work from, then how in the world does he create and know everything? This question forced a complete and total reinvention of God's relationship to the universe.
This comparison just shows you how massive the shift was. The old view saw God's mind as this, cosmic architect's office, filled with master plans, the perfect idea of a tree, the essential form of a human. Occam's view is completely different. He says God's mind is more like an infinite, detailed catalog of every single individual. God didn't just will humanity into existence. He specifically and individually willed you into existence.
And that leads us straight to this really important idea called voluntarism. It sounds fancy, but it comes from the Latin word for will. And all it means is that the universe is the way it is. Why? Not because of some grand logical design or some necessary order. Nope, it's the way it is simply because God willed it to be that way. His will is the ultimate and only reason for everything.
And here's the breathtaking, kind of terrifying consequence of that. In this world, nothing has to be the way it is. It's all contingent. The laws of physics, what it means to be good or bad, the very fabric of the cosmos, it could all be different tomorrow if God just willed it to be. Suddenly, the universe isn't some stable, predictable machine running on eternal rules. It's this dynamic, moment-by-moment creation, held together purely by a sovereign, absolute will.
So once you establish this new, completely contingent reality, the whole beautifully ordered, hierarchical world of the Middle Ages just starts to come apart at the seams. Occam's idea wasn't just a new thought, it was like a chemical solvent that dissolved the metaphysical glue, holding an entire civilization's worldview together.
You can literally watch the dominoes fall. Step 1, you get rid of universal forms. Okay, gone. Well, if those are gone, then there's no such thing as a fixed, shared human nature. Step 2, and if there's no universal human nature, then you can't have a system of ethics, of natural law, that's based on it. So, step 3, where does morality come from? It has to come directly from what God commands in any given situation. And finally, step 4, if the world isn't driven by these built-in purposes, these final causes, what's left for us to study? Just matter, and the forces pushing it around, what they called efficient causes. And boom, right there, you have the intellectual foundation for modern science.
I mean, this change in ethics was just enormous. The old natural law was supposed to be eternal, unchanging, because it was baked into the very nature of reality. But Occam's right reason is way more flexible, way more situational. It's about looking at the world as it is, this contingent, ever-changing place, and then trying to figure out the right thing to do based on what God has commanded for this specific moment. And that's how you can make sense of a story like God commanding Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. In the old system, that's a violation of eternal natural law. But in Occam's world, it's just God giving a specific command for a specific situation.
So we've seen Occam's idea pretty much tear down the medieval world. But now, let's look at what it built. Because he wasn't just a wrecker. He was laying the intellectual groundwork for the entire modern era that would follow.
The scope of his legacy is just staggering. By taking away that metaphysical bridge of universals, he effectively forces philosophy and theology to get a divorce. They're now two separate fields. And with that certainty gone, thinkers turn away from divine reason and towards what they can see and measure, empirical science. This intense focus on individual, particular facts becomes the absolute bedrock for British empiricism. Think Bacon, Locke, and Hume. And all this profound uncertainty he unleashed, it creates the exact intellectual crisis that someone like Descartes later tries to solve with the one particular thing he felt he could know for sure. I think, therefore I am.
You can literally trace a line from him through the next 400 years. Occam lights the match in the 14th century. 200 years later, Martin Luther, who was trained in Occam's philosophy, uses these ideas about the individual's direct relationship with God to help fuel the Protestant Reformation. Then you jump to the 17th century and the results are everywhere. You've got Francis Bacon building modern science on a world of particulars, and René Descartes desperately trying to find one solid rock of certainty in the ocean of doubt that Occam had created. The guy wasn't just a thinker, she was the starting gun for the race to the modern world.
So in the end, Occam's razor is famous for being this neat little principle of simplicity, right? Plurality should not be posited without necessity. But its greatest act was anything but simple. It was a deep, powerful, world-altering cut that severed the intellectual history of the West in two, clearing the ground for the world that you and I live in right now.
And all of this leaves us with a final, kind of haunting question. Occam said our universal concepts are really just universal words. They're just labels. So if he's right, if the universe really is just this chaotic collection of individual things with no built-in order, then what does that mean about all of our efforts to find it? Is all our science, our philosophy, our search for meaning, is it just an elaborate game we're playing with language? Are we actually discovering order in the universe, or are we just inventing it?